What's up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we're looking at a fun deck. This is a Rakdos Aggro deck. It has a slight modified sub-theme that is all about dealing as much damage as humanly possible directly to our opponent's face as quickly as possible in proper aggro fashion. So let's dive into the deck and take a look at how we go about doing that. So we have Eyetwitch and Shambling Ghast in here as just good. They're good when they die. They're decent little bodies for 1 mana that can chip in for some early damage and apply some early pressure. We like that. And then when they die, we get additional bonuses. They also provide a blank canvas on which we can put +1/+1 counters, which is nice. Eyetwitch, especially having flying, is very key evasion. We like that. We like that a lot. We also have Kumano faces Kakkazan at the 1-drop slot. This deals 1 damage. It flips into a 2/2 with haste. And on chapter 2, it gives the next creature we cast an additional +1/+1 counter. So it gives us +1/+1 counters added to any other creature that we throw down, which is going to provide us with a modified creature, which is nice. We like that. We also have Rabbit Battery. We can equip this to modify a creature and also give it +1/+1 in haste, which is great. And worst case scenario, the floor on this card is just great because it is a 1/1 for 1 with haste. It's a Raging Goblin, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, however, it can really buff up another powerful threat, give it the damage to come through, and on top of that, when it is reconfigured to another creature, it survives board wipes like Doomscar or Meathook Massacre, which is really, really nice because board wipes are generally going to be a huge problem when you're playing aggro. Because, well, that's just how they work. Board wipes stop aggro in a lot of situations. But we can get around that in a way with Rabbit Battery by still maintaining some semblance of a board, even if our opponent is successful in eradicating the majority of it. We also have Iron Apprentice, because again, this is a nice little 1-drop body, and it comes into play modified by coming into play with a +1/+1 counter on it. So that's pretty nice. I like that. And it also provides a benefit when it dies by being able to move that +1/+1 counter to something else. So we do have a couple ways to take advantage of all these death triggers as well as all these counters. Let's get into that. At the 2-drop slot, we do have Deadly Dispute, which is a great way to take advantage of Shambling Ghast or Eyetwitch. It also ramps us up a little bit. And we can do this in response to, like, if we are setting up a blocker or in response to our opponent setting up a block that is going to kill one of our creatures. We can, well, just kill it ourselves and draw a couple cards. This is a great card draw outlet. It's just an awesome spell. We also have Blade of the Oni. Blade of the Oni is especially great in here for a number of reasons, not the least of which it's great in the same way that Rabbit Battery is great. The floor on this card is a 3/1 menace for 2. That is a very cheap spell that produces a body that your opponent needs to respond to in one way or another. That said, it only has 1 toughness, so it's not terribly hard for them to respond to it. However, if they do end up having to block it in combat, the fact that it has menace means you're probably going to take out 2 creatures with it on the way out, and that's great. Like, truly great. Worst case, and then in the late game, we can also equip this onto another creature, turn that creature into a 5/5. If it's got any counters on it, it would become a 6/6, 7/7, etc. And then again, if the board gets wiped, we still have a Blade of the Oni back on reserve, which is 3 power, which, if we've been doing our job successfully and being able to apply pressure to our opponent, that might be enough to close it out. So that's great. I love this card. I think it's absolutely fantastic. We also have Infernal Grasp in here. It's spot removal. It gets rid of our opponent's biggest threats. If we are successful in being the ones applying the pressure to our opponent, our life total is not going to be that threatened. And as a result, spending 2 life to get rid of a key threat is it's worth it. That's no trouble at all. I would actually highly recommend Infernal Grasp. It's just a great piece of removal. And on top of that, it can eradicate pesky blockers to allow us to get in for additional damage. Now here we have a card that inspired the entire deck. At the 3-drop slot, we have Unforgiving One. This is a 4-of that I absolutely adore. This is a payoff for having modified creatures, and on top of that, it's a value engine that is going to effectively draw us additional cards by having modified creatures out there. The way that Unforgiving One works is a 2/3 menace for 3, so we have another menace. Another cool thing about menace is if you have a lot of creatures with menace, it becomes really tough to block because all of them soak up 2 blockers. Love it. But Unforgiving One says, whenever Unforgiving One attacks, return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of modified creatures you control. Now, if you do modify Unforgiving One, it does count itself. So, for example, like worst case scenario, we throw an Iron Apprentice on 1. We throw an Infernal Grasp on 2, let's say. On 3, we throw Unforgiving One. We can use Deadly Dispute or something to sacrifice the Iron Apprentice, swing with the on 4, swing with the Iron Apprentice, or swing with the Unforgiving One that now has a +1/+1 counter on it, brings the Iron Apprentice back. It just brings it back for free, which is great. Like, so that kind of a loop is something that we can take advantage of here and really get going. It also gives this deck a semblance of a late game, which aggro decks tend not to have. By being able to loop our creatures back from the graveyard, it means that if our opponent is successful in being able to eliminate our threats, especially if they're doing so in combat and soaking in spending their cards to do so, we're able to just get them all back and keep the pressure going, keep the swings alive, keep it going. It's nice. I like it. We also have Shatterskull Charger. This is a great way to apply additional damage, and it gets a bonus in a way whenever you have a +1/+1 counter on it. So Shatterskull Charger is a 4/3 trample haster that if it was kicked, it has a kicker for 2, that it initially costs 3, 1 red. If Shatterskull Charger was kicked, it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, dope. So it would enter the battlefield as a 5/4 with trample and haste. But at the beginning of your end step, if Shatterskull Charger doesn't have a +1/+1 counter on it, return it to its owner's hand. Note, the card does not check how that +1/+1 counter got there. It doesn't say if Shatterskull Charger wasn't kicked, return it to its owner's hand. So as a result, here's a great thing we can do. If we play Kumano Face's Kakkazan, for example, on turn 2, into a Shatterskull Charger on turn 3, Chapter 2 will be active on Kumano Face's Kakkazan, meaning that the Shatterskull Charger will enter with a +1/+1 counter on it, and as a result, it will not get bounced back to hand. Love it. It's absolutely fantastic. Another great way that we can do this is with the Iron Apprentice. If the Shatterskull Charger hits the battlefield and the Iron Apprentice is live and online, if we attack in combat and the Iron Apprentice dies, or we can sacrifice the Iron Apprentice to a Deadly Dispute, draw 2 cards, create a treasure token, and move the +1/+1 counter to the Shatterskull Charger. All good things. And worst case scenario, if it's late in the game and we have an extra 2 mana lying around, we can just kick the thing. So Shatterskull Charger is a great way to go from... It's a great way to put 4 to even 5 damage directly at our opponent's face with trample as early as turn 3. It provides a ton of pressure, and that's exactly what we need to do to be successful with this deck. So Shatterskull Charger is a great addition there. Another way that we can put a +1/+1 counter on Shatterskull Charger is with our 4-drop, our lone 4-drop, which is our closer. This card is what is going to put us over the top, and that is Thundering Raiju. Thundering Raiju is a card from Kamigawa that slaps. This card is incredibly powerful in aggressive strategies that have modified creatures, which is, of course, exactly what we're doing. So Thundering Raiju is a 3/3 with haste for 4, 2 red. Whenever Thundering Raiju attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It can be the Raiju, it can be a Shatterskull Charger, it can be anybody. Then Thundering Raiju deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control other than Thundering Raiju. So if we are successful and have 2, 3 modified creatures down when Thundering Raiju attacks, it's dealing an additional 2 or 3 damage directly to our opponent's face prior to combat being decided. Also, as previously mentioned, Thundering Raiju can buff itself into a 4/4. Note, it does not count itself when counting how much additional damage to deal. So, if you don't have any other modified creatures and Thundering Raiju buffs itself, it will not ping the opponent. That's good to know. You are still attacking with a 4/4 trample, or not, sorry, 4/4 haster for 4. It's still worth it most of the time, and depending on what kind of blockers you have down, even if you have other creatures you could theoretically buff, it might be the right choice to buff the Raiju anyway. It's important to keep that in mind and be careful about that as you're deciding who to add the counter to. But Thundering Raiju is an absolutely fantastic card, and it absolutely puts us over the top. So what we want to do, this deck has a whole host of ways it can curve out to take advantage of the early plays, apply pressure to our opponent, get additional value as our creatures die in combat, and ultimately end with a Shatterskull Charger and or a Thundering Raiju just crashing down on our opponent's face on turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, and hopefully by then the game's over. So that's kind of how this deck is designed to function. And if the game is not over at that point because of, say, board wipes or targeted removal, control that our opponent's been able to apply to us, or pesky blockers that they've been able to leverage to get around some of our early pressure, Unforgiving One has a chance to step in and reload our board and give us a few more shots at it. So I love that. As far as our lands go, we have Hive of the Eye Tyrant and Den of the Bugbear in here as well, as ways to, again, apply some late pressure. We have one Field of Ruin just in case to deal with opponents' creature lands. And it's also important to note, while a lot of our 1-drops, 1 and 2 drops are black, we actually have the only cards that have double color requirements are the Shatterskull Charger and Thundering Raiju. So as a result, as far as our basics are concerned, we do have actually more mountains than we have swamps. That is intentional because of that double red requirement on our late game. We need to be able to hit those on turns 3 and 4 respectively. So as a result, we have more mountains than swamps. But of course, we also have 4 pathways and 3 of the slow lands, the Haunted Ridge. Yeah, and that's the deck. Well, we do have a sideboard here for it that involves Clawing Torment, Feed the Swarm, a couple of lessons for the Eyetwitch in Environmental Sciences, Start from Scratch, Expanded Anatomy, and Mascot Exhibition. Clawing Torment is in here to deal with pesky blockers as well as cheap creatures. To be honest, this is one of those cards I'm still trying to feel out. I'm still trying to determine when it's best. And I've decided that it's really good against like 1-drop creatures like the Generous Visitor, for example, that is kind of running rampant right now, so it's a good way to deal with that early. We also have Cemetery Gatekeeper. Cemetery Gatekeeper is specifically in here to deal with the Runes deck. It is designed to punish the opponent for playing multiple enchantments in a given turn. In order to do that, we need to get an enchantment in the graveyard. That's one thing that Clawing Torment can help with, because if it outright kills the creature that it's attached to, it goes into our graveyard and is an enchantment. So Cemetery Gatekeeper could pull it out. Now, this is a little bit of a transformative sideboard to kind of lend itself through a longer game, which hopefully we don't have. But the Naya Runes list that's running around right now, and to a lesser extent the Green-White Enchantment list, are both bad matchups for us because of their lifelink capability. Between Rune of Sustenance and Jukai Naturalist, they're capable of producing a lot of, well, I should specify, these are popular decks in the meta as of this recording. So if they are no longer popular when you're listening to this, whether bans come down or whether they just fall out of favor for one reason or another, take that into account. But the reason for this sideboard specifically is to deal with the Naya Runes list. The goal is to create some kind of game plan where we punish them every single time they play a rune to deal additional damage, while we're also getting in with our Thundering Raiju and Shatterskull Charger. So that's the thought, that's the hope. Because that deck is capable of producing a 10-10 trampling lifelinker on like turn 5, there's really not much we can do about it, if I'm honest. It's an incredibly powerful contender in the format right now. But if they stumble a little bit and if we're able to set up hate against it, that's what the sideboard's for. So that's the thought. So if you find yourself going up against that deck in best of 3, Cemetery Gatekeeper, Clawing Torment, and Feed the Swarm are all in here to help specifically hate on enchantments. Feels a little silly now that I look at it, but at the same time, I stand by it. Here we are. But let's play a couple of best of 1 games with this. I'll show you how it works, and hopefully we can get some wins. So let's go on to the gameplay. If you would like to challenge me to build other decks or suggest other decks like this, feel free to join the conversation on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Hamhocks42. I am there Monday through Friday in the mornings from 6:30 a.m. till about 11 a.m. most days. So that is the best way to find me. Yeah, and I'd love to hear. You can also use channel point redemption. You can use channel points, which is a currency that you get just by hanging out on the channel, to force me to actually build a deck of whatever idea you have. Those can be absolutely ludicrous, or they can be more dialed in. Feel free to throw some weird ones at me. People don't hesitate to, and we come up with some interesting decks on the stream, and I would love to hear your ideas. So please don't hesitate to check that out. I'm also on Twitter at Hocks42, HOCKS42. Yeah, feel free to drop me a follow there. Every now and then I throw in random thoughts, or if I pick up a random pack at the grocery store, I show off the rare that I opened or whatever. Anyway, it's fun. We have a good time. But without further ado, let's get to the gameplay. Let's check this thing out and see what we can do with it. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. All right, this actually looks like a very keepable hand. We don't have a 1-drop, unfortunately, but we do have the Shatterskull Charger into Thundering Raiju. This is actually a really slow start for this deck. It's actually the slowest of starts for this deck. But let's keep it and see what we can do. We are on the draw, so there's a very good chance we're going to draw into a 1-drop or another early option. Infernal Grasp, that gives us something to do. Something to do on 2. I'll take it. And this pathway is going to come in as the Searstep Pathway, the red side. Our opponent is on Boros. There's a Shambling Ghast. A turn too late, but better late than never. Let's go ahead and just throw it out. We could have actually thrown the Haunting Ridge there, Haunted Ridge, and Bluff being stuck on land. Spikefield Hazard is problematic because it exiles the Shambling Ghast, so we don't get the treasure token, nor is it in our graveyard for the Unforgiving One to pull back later. Kind of frustrating, not gonna lie. It looks like our opponent is playing some form of a control deck here. I could throw the Unforgiving One, but it would probably go straight into some removal, so I think instead I'm going to throw the Shatterskull Charger unkicked with no way to give it a +1/+1 counter, so it's just going to be a 4/3, but it's going to be a 4/3 that could survive sorcery speed removal. Let's see, does our opponent have sorcery speed removal, or do they have instant speed removal? It's not looking good for us so far. There was a long delay there. They're going to hit it with a Spikefield Hazard, followed by a Play with Fire, maybe? Yeah. And because the Spikefield Hazard exiles, Shatterskull Charger is now gone. That was a straight 2-for-1. So we can do a lot worse than that, but all the same, I don't love it.
Yep, I'm basically a professional at this drive by now.
All right, if we top deck an untapped land here, which we do not, the Thundering Raiju could come down. As it stands, I think the Unforgiving One is going to be entering the fray here. That, or we throw the Rabbit Battery and smack Chandra, but then, yeah. We could throw the Rabbit Battery, smack Chandra, and keep Deadly Dispute up. That would have been fine, I suppose. By fine, I mean actually probably the right answer. Next turn, we can equip the Rabbit Battery onto Unforgiving One. That could help.
Let's bring things up to a simmer.
And they're going to rip apart my Unforgiving One. I don't love that. Cemetery Gatekeeper's presumably going to grab probably my Unforgiving One again. Yeah, yep. Well, we have the Infernal Grasp for the Cemetery Gatekeeper. Gonna use it. We're gonna take 2, but then we get the distinct privilege of playing out Rabbit Battery and smacking Chandra around. Now, we have been grossly unsuccessful so far in this game in applying pressure to our opponent. Grossly. Like, this is the opposite of what we want to be doing. So we are in a terrible position. That said, our opponent's not applying too much pressure to us. Just kidding. That Volatile Arsonist changes things dramatically. Goodbye Rabbit Battery. That's a whole bunch of face damage. Now we have the Infernal Grasp to deal with it, but unfortunately we're at 8, and we're stuck on 3 land with a 4-drop in hand. This couldn't be worse. Yeah, we are in a really bad spot here. And Chandra just keeps pinging us each turn. And they have Showdown of the Skulls to reload their hand. Crap! This is all bad. They hit a Kumano Faces Kakkazan, a land, a Play with Fire. They can even unload. They get a chance to unload all this right now. And they can Play with Fire all over our face, but they could also wait and see what we play. So they don't have to. Well, there's the land we needed. That's something. Thundering Raiju can come down, buff itself into a 4/4 smack Chandra, but it's not enough to kill Chandra. Does make sure that ult doesn't hit anytime soon, which is nice, but boo. We got a lot of work to do yet.
Listen, jerk. Move it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do yet. So any creatures they drop this turn have the potential to get pretty darn big. Cemetery Gatekeeper is definitely one such creature. They're gonna grab the Infernal Grasp. Actually, with that Infernal Grasp grab, this Infernal Grasp kills us. If we cast it, we lose 2 life from it resolving, and Cemetery Gatekeeper pings us for 2. So that actually straight up kills us. Augusta and Plarg. I gotta say, our opponent's doing some cool stuff. I mean, I can't fault them for playing an interesting, for playing something different. By Chandra, but we are likely going to be dead here shortly. Blade of the Oni is a chump blocker. That's not what it wants to be, but we don't have a choice here. Yeah, our opponent was doing some cool Boros stuff. Turns out in this particular matchup, it looks like Boros is greater than Rakdos, which I don't like to admit. I'll be honest. Not a fan. So Augusta holds back. Etching of Kumano holds back. Cemetery Gatekeeper swings in. But they're going to untap it. Going to put one Oni Blade in front of it because Cemetery Gatekeeper has a lot of great things going for it. Trample is not one of them. Oh, now we hit lands. But that means the Hive of the Eye Tyrant can activate, which is something. But to be honest, it's better off blocking. Truly unfortunate. So we can swing here, but our opponent could just take it. But I'm going to, because, well, we have to. Yeah, they're going to. Take it in, on, or around the face. They're probably going to attack all here. No. Interesting. Okay. And our Blade of the Oni is going to say goodbye. We also have the Hive of the Eye Tyrant back, which could be useful here, but probably not. Alright, and I'm going to do this even though it's going to hurt us because of the Cemetery Gatekeeper's ability, but we need to draw something. We need to draw some critters, and we need to do it now. Nah, Twitchy Eyes isn't bad. It's also not great. Iron. Alright, we got the Iron Apprentice, we got the Eyetwitch. Another Hive at Eye Tyrant. And now I think we just have to hold back, unfortunately. It feels real bad. They have another showdown. We're at 2. This could be really bad. Showdown of the Skulls is a phenomenal card. Absolutely phenomenal. Like, I've had people ask me, what cards do you think should get banned to knock the Naya Runes deck down? To be honest, I think Showdown is probably the... If they needed to choose, like, one card to ban. I almost said... I said banned there. You know... Yeah, if they needed to ban one card from the Naya Runes list to make it, like, decently competitive, or to make it decent without killing the entire deck, I think Showdown would be a good choice. But anyway, just a thought. Well, we have the mana lying around, so we might as well kick it. Because sometimes you've got to kick it. We don't kind of have enough to go all in yet. Oh, they have a Light Up the Night in hand. We're dead next turn. Yeah, so they can throw the Light Up the Night directly at our face and just hit us for 2. So we might as well buff the team and swing with the lot. See what happens. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm almost tempted to throw the Infernal Grasp just as our way of conceding, but I'll let him do the thing. Yep, alright, let's move on to the next game and see what we can do there. Now they're still doing the thing. Yep. All right. So that will do it. So we were, yeah, we just didn't, that game, we didn't get our game plan online. I kept a bad hand, to be honest. I should have mulled that. All right, let's go on to game 2. All right, this is looking better. The Iron Apprentice on 1 with Shatterskull potentially coming down on 3 could be decent, and Infernal Grasp on 2. I mean, we got a curve. We got a curve here. We got Iron Apprentice on 1 into Infernal Grasp on 2 into Shatterskull on 3. That could be a lot worse. Now, I need to make sure to not mess up the pathway and play it down as red. Ooh, Deadly Dispute. Okay, okay. Get in for that sweet, sweet first blood action. Let's go. And my cat has decided to make her presence known, which is always lovely. Jukai Naturalist, that is a that's a good target for the Infernal Grasp. I'll take it. Thundering Raiju, happy to see you. Shatterskull Charger with the Iron Apprentice. We're going to get in for 5 damage on turn 3. Not bad. Not bad. If we draw some land here, Generous Visitor. All right, okay. Circle Confinement, grabbing the Iron Apprentice, presumably. Okay. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Mildly problematic, but not the end of the world. All right, we've got another Manya Source, which means it's Raiju time. So it's 4/4 crashing in. And we're going to be able to throw a Shatterskull Charger next turn and give it a +1/+1 counter from the Thundering Raiju. So no matter what we draw, actually drawing another Iron Apprentice would be pretty rad. All right, wedding announcement's annoying. The wedding gets announced a lot too. That's one of those things. Like, yeah, we get it. There's a wedding. All right, Unforgiving One. Okay, I can do good work with that. Charger time, they both swing, buff the Charger. It now has a +1/+1 counter on it, and it's a 5/4 Trampler. It's gonna block the Thundering Raiju, take 5 to the face. That feels pretty good, pretty good. And if the Thundering Raiju survives here, which is not a given, but if the Thundering Raiju survives, because they could have like a Touch the Spirit Realm, a Borrowed Time, something like that to deal with it. It doesn't look like they do. By pulling out the Spirited Companion, they're digging, presumably to hit their land drops. I have another Shatterskull Charger, which is going to come on down. Whole team's going to swing. Ching. They're going to go down to 2. We've got 10 trample damage. They can block 6 of it, so that is game. All right, that felt good. See, that's what this deck's trying to do. All right, so we've got 2 land, an Eyetwitch, a Blade of the Oni, a Deadly Dispute, Rabbit Battery. Rather than just read my whole hand, let's just keep it and keep going. Now we don't actually have a way to play the Eyetwitch on 1, which is problematic, but we will have the Blade of the Oni on 2. Yeah, the mana base in that opener was not ideal for us, but yeah, Blade of the Oni on 2. They have the Hopeful Initiate, which could be annoying, potentially, especially if they have the Luminarch Aspirant on 2, which they probably will, because the white deck tends to have it. Oh, Thalia! Okay, that works too. So our Deadly Dispute's a little bit further out of reach, but none of our creatures are, so that's fine. We can drop and equip the Rabbit Battery, turning the Blade of the Oni into a 4/2 Menace. Now, if they choose to block, Thalia would just kill it, though, before it's able to do anything. So that actually is a stupid idea. Let's not do it. Instead, let's play on the Iron Apprentice and an Eyetwitch. And Blade of the Oni does not have an attack, unfortunately, because of that Thalia. Thalia's first strike is a big deal. Yeah, that is a very good card. Adeline, that card is so dumb. I'm sorry, Adeline is so powerful. The amount of value you get for 3 mana is absurd. Playing out the team. Swinging into those twitchy guys. We have the Infernal Grasp back, assuming we can draw land. We draw land, Thalia's going to go bye-bye. And then, Vertical Thar, probably going after our Blade. Yeah, Rabbit Battery is also a decent threat there. The Blade's a non-factor in this situation, though. Our opponent is just able to set up too much of a defense. We've got kind of nothing here. No, there's the land we needed. So I want to blow up Thalia, but I think we need to get Adeline off the field. Now that our Oni Blade is a non-factor, Adeline was the biggest issue. Portable Hole, probably going after the Iron Apprentice, because it's the biggest body we've got, which is not saying much, as you can see. And they have another Adeline, because why wouldn't they? They've seen a whopping 12 cards. Of course they've seen 2 of those. Yeah, we're dead. I'm not even going to bother blocking here. I think I'm gonna scoop this up, and there's a part of me that's also seriously considering not even putting this video or put this gameplay in the video, but I will, in the interest of journalistic integrity or whatever. Yeah, we wouldn't even draw any lands there. Yeah, that's a scoop. All right, so this is game number 4. We are currently 1-2 with this deck. It doesn't feel great, but we'll be okay. I probably need to stop keeping 2-landers, but this time we at least have the pathway. Pathway to get out Eyetwitch on 1, Blade of the Oni on 2. Kumano faces Kakkazan on 2 actually could be really nice into a Shatterskull Charger. I'm actually going to keep this. Let's see what we can do. Or Kumano faces Kakkazan on 1 into a Blade of the Oni on 2. It's actually another great line. Creates a 4-2 menace on turn 2. Yeah, you can do a lot worse than that. And that way we don't have to commit the pathway just in case we need another red mana source for the Shatterskull Chargers. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that line. I think that is the better option because we're guaranteed the Oni on 2. We can commit the pathway to black if we have to. But if we draw into a swamp here, I would much rather play out the swamp and keep the pathway for red so that we can hit the Chargers on 3. The Chargers won't stick around the way they would have had we held the Kumano faces Kakkazan, but that's okay. Oh, and we just draw into a soul land, so we have access to whatever anyway. All right, perfect. That's actually just fine. I still stand by our choice of playing it out like this to get that 4-2. Because we can actually represent 8 damage on turn 3 if they don't deal with the blade. Now, they are playing Izzet, so there's a very real possibility they have a burn spell here that can get rid of that thing. Or a bounce, just to be annoying. Sorry, this actually be 10 damage on turn 3, because the Kumano faces Kakkazan is going to flip as well. Charger time. Boom, baby. Doing what we came here to do. Punching face with big giants. Feels good. It feels real good. Alright, the weak are getting crushed. We still have this giant in our hand, though. So that does exile the Blade of the Oni as well as Kumano, which is kind of annoying. Except for the kind of part. It's actually, like, super annoying. But that's okay. We're going to throw out the Shatterskull Charger here one more time. One more time. As well as an Eyetwitch, because we can. Because our opponent was gracious enough to tap out. And Shatterskull Charger is going to swing in. And if they don't deal with the Eyetwitch, it's going to represent lethal next turn. What they don't know is we have a start from scratch in the sideboard. That Eyetwitch can go grab to deal that additional 1 to the face that we might just need. Or if we top deck a land, we can actually kick a Shatterskull Charger and just punch him for 5. Unless they have instant speed interaction. Which, again, they're in Izzet. They probably do. Yeah. Another Crush of the Week. That exile, so we don't get the Eyetwitch trigger. Mildly annoying, but not the end of the world. But there's the land that we needed for a kicked Shatterskull Charger. Which is going to represent 5 damage. If it is able to connect. So far looking good. No fading hope this time. 2-2. Booyah. All right. So we have played 4 games so far, and this deck is currently 2-2. This is our 5th game, and I plan on this being our final game. So this is going to determine whether or not we end with a winning record. So we do not have... This is a bad keep for us. Because 3 double red pips with no red mana sources. I'm going to learn my lesson. I'm not going to keep this. This is actually looking a little bit better for us because Eyetwitch can grab us Environmental Sciences when it dies, presumably, and Unforgiving One is a good 3-drop. So I'm going to keep this and actually let Kumano go. Because we don't have the red mana sources. Now, we do still ultimately want to get to those red mana sources. That's very important for us. Our opponent's going to play Eyetwitch, Shatterskull Charger, sure. Yeah, we do need to get to those red mana sources, especially now that we're drawing into Shatterskull Charger. So to be honest, if they attack with their Eyetwitch into our Eyetwitch, I will block. Yeah, I will block it. But they choose not to. Okay. I'm going to play out an Iron Apprentice. I'm actually going to attack into their Eyetwitch. And they do block it. All right, so this time they're going to, yeah. We're probably both going to go grab up Environmental Sciences. Oh, there's results first. Of course. They grab up Intro to Prophecy. We grab up Enviro Sciences. All right, cool. So next turn, if we draw a red mana source, I'm just going to slam the Unforgiving One. If we don't, I'm going to hit the Enviro Science. Actually, I probably will still slam the Unforgiving One, because I can pull our Eyetwitch back. Shambling Ghast, so let's go. And so next turn, we'll be able to Environmental Sciences, a red mana source, as well as play the Shambling Ghast. And a Restoration of Aganjo is going to ramp them a little bit. Mildly problematic, but not the end of the world. Bringing their Eyetwitch back. Nice. Another Resto of Aganjo, grabbing up another Plains. Okay, that was actually, yeah, good on him. That was not a bad sequence. That was not a bad sequence at all. All right, so Enviro Sciences are going to go grab us a Montagna. Play outside Montagna, as well as a Shambling Ghast. Then we're going to punch. Unforgiving One is going to bring back Twitchy. All right, cool. We should probably have 2 Environmental Sciences in the sideboard for situations like this, but if our Eyetwitch dies and we get another learn opportunity, I can actually leverage the second mode of the Eyetwitch and discard this swamp and draw an additional card and hopefully draw into a red source that way. So we can do that, or more threats. Because more threats are fine. I wouldn't be mad at getting a Blade of the Oni, for example, or another Unforgiving One. That could be fun. I'm down, if you will. I'm down to clown Charlie Brown. The other thing that can happen is if our Shambling Ghast dies, it creates a treasure token that we can leverage to get one of these Chargers online. And at that point, we'll even be able to kick the Charger, which is kind of nice. So we got options. We got the options. We're going to be just fine. Now, that's a lot of Architects of Restoration. That is mildly problematic for us, except for the mildly part. Oh, here we go. There's a red Mania source, which means Charger time. Shatterskull Charger is going to swing. Everything except the Unforgiving One is actually going to swing here. Oh, actually, the Unforgiving One has Menace, so it probably, yeah, it's still worth it. Let's go. Let's see where they line up the blocks. Now, they are going to get a Spirit token here, which is mildly problematic, but it's not the end of the world. An Iron Apprentice, I'm going to move it to the Unforgiving One. Their Eyetwitch dies, which is mildly problematic, but not the end of the world. They're also going to have an opportunity to use this Restoration of Aganjo here to get the Eyetwitch back, which is kind of annoying, but it's going to come back tapped, so we'll be okay. Yeah, the Restorations of Aganjo are proving rather potent. I will give them that. I will definitely give them that. Another Environmental Sciences. Alright. The life gain on the Environmental Sciences is actually going to be the biggest one. Alright, so they do have the, yeah. Alright. Let's see where they go with this. So they have 4 mana open right now. An Intro to Prophecy in hand. Something Foretold. Possibly, if it's a Dooms card, they don't have the mana to cast it anymore. We have the mana to play out and equip the Blade of the Oni. Oni. I do like the Blade of the Oni. It's pretty darn nice. We can equip it to the Shambling Ghast, making it a 5/5, 8/9. It'd be 14 damage. They could block some of it though. I think the better play is actually to kick the Charger and swing out with the team. Death Vanishing versus one of the Chargers. Mildly problematic. Except for the mildly part. Unforgiving One brings back the Iron Apprentice, which is nice. Shatterskull Charger is going to crash through some more. I'm going to eat that Architect of Restoration. They do get one more Spirit token, which is mildly problematic, except for the mildly part. Let's see. So they still have that card Foretold. They're in Orzhov. It could be a Return Upon the Tide, or it could be, I mean, it could be a number of things. But my guess is Doomscar. And as a result, yeah. Well, we'll see. If it is, I'm just going to be sad. But we also have the Blade of the Oni back. We don't have any of our man lands yet. We also have Eyetwitch down and a Mascot Exhibition in our sideboard. Kaya probably getting rid of the Unforgiving One and making me sad there. Yeah, making me hella sad. Alright, what you gonna do though? I'm gonna cry about it. Alright. Do they try to attack here or do they not? Okay, they don't. Gonna play out the land, gonna play out the Blade of the Oni. Let's put it on the Shambler. Homie be shambling. More menace. Just gonna double Eyetwitch block, sure. How much more do you need to learn, opponent? Honestly. Our opponent is learning their lessons. There's no question about it. They grab up a Mascot Exhibition, sure. Of course. And reduced to memory. All these exile effects are pretty brutal. Ooh, they reduced the Oni Blade. That is the correct choice, opponent. Let's see what we draw into here. A Thundering Raiju would be fantastic. A Shatterskull Charger would be acceptable. Another Oni Blade would also do the job. We need some threats. We need some kind of way to push additional damage through. Especially with that Architect of Restoration doing a thing. It's only 3. We had an opportunity to kill the Architect. Iron Apprentice. You're not really going to do the job. You're not really doing the job there, homie. Another Eyetwitch trade. They're going to grab another Mascot Exhibition. Sure, I'm also going to grab another Mascot Exhibition. Difference between me and you, homie, though. I got the mana to cast it. I'll be surprised if they don't hit the Intro to Prophecy here. Been a Ghost Form counter on the Architect of Restoration, sure. Okay, here comes Lolth.
Such power, a gift in exchange for loyalty.
Oni. All right, we're going face. They have plenty of blockers, but we're going to chew them up. Yeah, they have a one-way ticket to Value Town here. Planeswalkers are pretty brutal. Yeah, so it looks like we're probably just I'm gonna try here. I'm gonna do everything I can, but it's looking to me like we are probably not gonna win this game. Lolth and Kaya together are able to produce just some pretty redonkulous situations. So that's going to make this very difficult for us. Not impossible, but really hard. They have a board wipe. There's no way they don't. Yeah, that's a Doomscar. They're gonna hit it. At this point, they have to because they committed to that attack. Or Meat Hook, that works too. Yeah.
My power is for annihilation.
Now, they haven't triggered Lolth yet this turn, so they can even get the Lolth emblem, but they wouldn't be able to get any more Spoders if they did that. If I were them, I'd probably just create the spider tokens. Oh, they go for the emblem. Okay.
You've been caught in my web since we've met.
Okay. They always have the Doomscar.
Good minions are loyal.
Yeah. So this is a situation where our aggro deck wasn't able to produce enough pressure early enough to beat this control deck, because that's what this is. Yeah, well, or I'd call this a mid-range deck that our opponent's running. Right now they're executing a controlling game plan to get rid of us, and it's working. We're gonna Deadly Dispute our treasure because we can. Give me some cards. Give me something good. Shatterskull something. Nope. Give me some more good stuff. Come on, Deadly Dispute. I'm trusting you. Give me something good. A rabbit battery. I need something good, and I get a raging goblin.
Do you not love me?
Yep. That's as good as it's going to get for us, I think. At this point, like, our opponents had 36 cards in the library. We're at 38. I think we have a higher probability of milling them out than actually beating them through damage. I'm being a little hyperbolic there, but it feels that way right now, which is a bummer. You know, I don't like it when things feel hopeless. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And they have another freaking Planeswalker. Yeah, to be honest, I think this is probably scoop time. Anyway, this looks to me like it's gonna take them another 5 minutes to beat us, but they're gonna beat us. So rather than waste your time, waste my time, I'm gonna go ahead and just call it here. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, all that happy jazz. I'd appreciate it very, very much. Or do we try to play it out? I mean, they're at 6 life, and they're not answering our rabbit battery. All right, no. We're not going to call it yet. You're not going to call it yet. You'll hear me shield from my channel here in a second again. Kumano face Kakkazan, that's not going to do the job either, but it is... I believe it's going to kill Lolth, though, which is nice. It's going to down-tick everybody, so that's... All right, okay.
I return to the abyss.
I'm going to play to our outs, because at this point, we just need to deal enough damage to their face to make this thing count. All right. Sorry for that false start, false end. I guess this is still a close game, but it's not looking good for us. They're gonna Vanishing versus Kumano, sure. Mildly annoying, but not the end of the world. Yeah, Liliana's Magecraft ability is gonna be enough, I think, for them to do this. Yeah, I still don't think we win this one, but at least, I don't know, it looked for a second like, had we top decked a Shatterskull Charger there, this would look a lot different. We would have had a shot. I don't think we do anymore, though. We had for a second. Anyway, this was fun. Thanks for going with me on this little journey of is it too much? Is it not? Oh, what's happening? Yeah, like, I don't know. At the end of the day, the Orzhov mid-range deck, it's just all the good. It's just Orzhov good stuff. And right now, there's a lot of really good stuff in Orzhov. That's the thing, actually. I've noticed that if you're going to be playing Orzhov or some flavor of Orzhov, like Abzan or, one of those variants, you can just take the best cards, slap them together, and have a deck. Whereas if you're in Naya, you really need to, like, synergize. Like, the Naya Enchantments deck is using a bunch of cards that you don't see in other decks that come together to produce something very powerful, and they're synergistic, and they play off each other, which is cool. But with these Orzhov decks, it's really just, like, It's Lolth, Meathook Massacre, a couple other Planeswalkers. It's just whatever good stuff you want to slap into it, and it just kind of creates a stew of good stuff. I don't know. I don't find that to be particularly interesting, but clearly it wins games. So if that's your goal, which, I mean, let's be honest, our goal is always to win games. I get it. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out. This has been a pleasure. Sorry I wasn't able to close out this last one on a win, but it's all good. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing this video, thank you for making it to the end, by the way. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to the channel, it would mean a ton. Right now, actually, that is the best way you can help support this channel. So thank you. I appreciate you. Also, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below. If I misplayed anywhere, feel free to point it out and laugh at me. That's welcome. Or if you have any comments on the deck, anything that maybe we could do to tweak it, improve it, I'd love to hear. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.